Yo, what's up guys, you got pokeaim here, or Joey, or never mind, it's Ron, or TrueGreen7. I'm starting to get confused myself. Who am I? Well, that's not important. Today's subject is...
Joey here, I think. Upon the release of X and Y in the fall of 2013, Talonflame was instantly one of the most hyped Pokemon, brimming with possibilities so exciting you quickly forgot its spectacularly uninspired name.
Now, most priority moves are famously weak, which is a fair trade-off for having, well, priority. Even the renowned so-called power of extreme speed and Sucker Punch sat at the not exactly world-beating base power of 80, and also came with other stipulations. E-Speed was never going to hit anything super effectively, and was almost never going to be backed by Stab, while Sucker Punch of course only worked if the opponent attempted to attack. So, with the reveal of Talonflame's Gale Wings ability that gave priority to all of its flying-type moves, including Brave Bird, which hit with 180 base power factoring in Stab, the player base was understandably excited. This allowed Talonflame to be an effective revenge killer against opposing threats, always a valuable trait in the face of power creep, and made itself a more dangerous threat. Gale Wings priority also extended to Roost, which had a whole host of applications. To name one, healing from low health in the face of Choice Scarfers. If Talonflame didn't want to deal with the recoil of Brave Bird, it could go with a different flying priority move in Acrobatics, which still had a solid 165 base power after Stab. And though it required Talonflame to not run an item, this was actually an advantage of sorts since it also weakened the power of Knockoff, which was being spammed everywhere by Pokemon like Bisharp and Mega Mawile.
Talonflame had a litany of other valuable traits too. Its secondary stab, Flare Blitz, would broil steel types looking to resist its flying stab. Its move pool as a whole was stellar. Swords Dance, U-Turn, Taunt, Will-O-Wisp, Bulk Up, all of which were perfectly suited to Talon's typing and stat spread, capable of seemingly endless customization that allowed Talonflame to run a bevy of different sets. Its most immediate variants were Choice Band, valued for its excellent instant power, and the offensive Sharp Beak Swords Dance variant, which was a ferociously powerful, sharply precise late-game cleanup artist. Between Gale Wings and Talon's incredibly high speed stat, it lost out on no real relevant speed targets and was able to reap the full benefits of an attack-boosting adamant nature, ensuring it was hitting as hard as it possibly could. Furthermore, Talonflame quickly proved itself to be more than just an offensive threat and revenge killer. With Gale Wings acting as much of its speed, it could safely invest fully in its special bulk, allowing it to effectively utilize its valuable resistances. Most notably, it was one of the few Pokemon that could stand Mega Charizard Y. It was also a superb counter to another one of the scariest Pokemon in the game, Volcarona. Later in the generation, in the Oras metagame, Talonflame would start running physically defensive sets, which helped it answer Weavile and Psyshock Mega Gardevoir, as well as doing a better job of pivoting around Mega Metagross.
But didn't Talonflame have problems dishing out damage without offensive investment? That is something I certainly remember and didn't just find out now, by the way.
Nope, not at all.
Whoa, okay, that's pretty cool actually. I mean, I knew that because, oh yeah! The most striking tool in Talonflame's arsenal was Will-O-Wisp, which would absolutely ruin the Tyranitar, Rotom Wash, or Landorus Therian that had otherwise checked the offensive sets. With Taunt, Talonflame would shut down healing attempts from Pokemon like Suicune, as well as completely stifling Common Answer Heatran's attempts to Stealth Rock or Toxic. Many a team relied on Heatran to withstand Talon's moves, and were thus put in a highly uncomfortable position when Tran was unable to actually threaten Talon at all. The fact that Heatran ran rock coverage as long as it did was, yes, partially for Volcanion and Zard Y too, but it was mostly Talon. At least the other two could be toxic or roared out with rocks up. Special Defense Talonflame was also a major reason why Landorus Incarnate often ran Rock Slide before its ban.
Talonflame could mix and match its moves on this bulky set too. It could drop one of Will-O-Wisp or Taunt to slot in Bulk Up or Swords Dance and become a vicious setup sweeper without sacrificing its walling capabilities, which only seemed to get more valuable throughout the generations as threats like Serperior rose in popularity. While bulky Talonflame eventually became the standard set for its greater contributions to its team's defensive integrity, offensive Talonflame would often appear to remind the player base just how threatening it was. It was particularly vicious when paired with another spammer of powerful flying stab, Mega Pinsir, forming the bird spam combination that characterized hyper offense in late Oras.
Simply put, Talonflame was at the forefront of everything that occurred in Generation 6, and continues to be so when the gen continued to be played consistently at a high level even after the release of Gen 7. Talon's presence, its potential, and its viability were all among the best players' topmost considerations in their attempts to both build and play, both with and against it. Players actually used Koba Berry Hidden Power Rock Volcarona. You don't use that kind of lore and take that kind of hyper-specific countermeasure against any Pokemon that isn't top tier and incredibly common. Talonflame's reputation was one of notoriety, not just among the most competitive players, but among the casual player base as well. I mean, it was one of my favorite Pokemon back in the day, but others disliked Talon's immense popularity and the prospect of facing it so consistently because it was spammed for its game in, game out reliability and effectiveness. This is the case with any Pokemon at the top of the usage charts, a tradition dating back generations. For example, some viewers may recall the loudly espoused hatred for the Scizor spam in Generation 4's Platinum metagame. Such spammed Pokemon became the face of complaints about the supposed sameness of OU, and in Gen 6, Talonflame was right up there with the likes of Lando T, as one of the most popular, metagame-defining, and thus most complained about Pokemon. It was so popular and irritating, two traits that feed into each other until they're one and the same, that it even got its own name, the Smogon bird. If you did not spam Rotom Wash, Landorus, Therian, Tyranitar, and Heatran all on the same team, the Smogon bird was gonna beat ya.
However, sometime into Oras' development post-Gen 7 release, Talonflame usage started dropping, and it kept going in that way quite quickly until Talonflame had suddenly gone from the metagame definer to an incredibly rare sight seemingly overnight. The Smogon bird itself had dropped off the face of the metagame it had purportedly defined. What happened?
Well, Talonflame's typing, even with its many benefits, does possess the greatest of Pokemon's Achilles heels, a quadruple Stealth Rock weakness. Throughout the generation, the emphasis on the newly buffed Defog that most teams already had no problem adding kept this hindrance from being too much of a blight on Talonflame's viability. It was an important consideration, of course, but Talonflame's many benefits meant it was worth the effort. Plus, as the generation progressed, the increase in Rapid Spin from Starmie and Excadrill, as well as Magic Bounce from the two Oras Megas, Sableye and Diancie, meant there was never a lack of ways to deal with these pesky pebbles.
What made players move away from Talonflame was not quite Talonflame itself, in and of itself. It never stopped being an effective, irritating Pokemon. Instead, it was more of a shift to a different mode of playing overall, one that Talonflame didn't quite fit into. There was a widespread realization among the player base that Gen 6 hazard control was, well, terrible. With the excellence of the hazard setters, you couldn't reliably block hazards from going up. With Magic Bounce, with Taunt, with Offensive Pressure, with anything, so you were going to have to remove them. The remove options either matched up badly against the hazard setters or were easily removed, or both. Thus, even if you did your due diligence and provided Talonflame with plenty of anti-hazard support, you would still have to play with rocks up quite a bit anyway. Suddenly switching Talonflame even into a quadruple resisted unstabbed Solar Beam from Mega Charizard Y would result in losing half its health and forcing a roost on the subsequent turn, which was incredibly exploitable even if it didn't get double switched on and forced out immediately without healing, which was effectively a death sentence. What else were you going to do? Not switch Talonflame into the Pokemon it's supposed to counter? The whole point of Talonflame is that it can answer dangerous threats that you're not going to be able to safely answer otherwise. So it's not like you can just go to one of your multiple other Zard Y answers. It is a brutal lose-lose situation. Realizing that getting rid of hazards was a difficult, unreliable endeavor, players decided it was best to not utilize Pokemon that needed them gone to function, and thus Oras shifted in the direction of Pokemon that possessed longevity even in the face of opposing hazards. Talonflame was decidedly not one of those Pokemon. As such, its usage for quite some time was nearly nil. The Smogon bird vanished from Smogon tournaments, because if you wanted to succeed in those tournaments, using the Smogon bird would be counterintuitive.
Now, this was Talonflame's low point. It has made a recovery, but it certainly hasn't come anywhere near its old level of prominence. Hyper-offensive teams focusing on strategies like Sticky Web and Dual Screens in conjunction with major threats like Volcarona became prominent to run over those hazard removal or ignoring balance teams that had come to rule the metagame. These styles were utterly ruined by Talonflame. This, in conjunction with the incredible splashability of support Excadrill, gave rise to Talon's new niche in the metagame. It was one in stark contrast with what it had been previously, but at least it was not completely without redemption. The overall lesson here is the immense power of Stealth Rock, and the methods that exist to try and often fail to deal with it. Their failure then leads to the failure of others. Even the Smogon bird itself wasn't immune.
But wait!
There's more!
Did Talonflame manage to make a comeback in the 2 generations after Gen 6?
Well, as you know, Joey, Ron, John, other me. Thanks to Talon's Gen 6 dominance in VGC, Gale Wings was nerfed to only giving flying moves priority if the user was at full health, and thus, Talon had an enormous portion of its viability cut off, without a chance in OU. Even UU was mostly beyond its reach, however, Talonflame absolutely shattered RU. It made full use of Gen 7's Z moves, powering up its Brave Birds into devastating supersonic sky strikes, resulting in it getting banned to RUBL. Is that pronounced rubble? Then in Generation 8, heavy-duty boots entered the equation. At long last, Talonflame wouldn't have to worry about rocks. Of course, it still wasn't going to be using Gale Wings too effectively. It couldn't run acrobatics if it was running boots, and even a single HP of Brave Bird Recoil would deactivate its ability. So, it opted to not run Gale Wings at all, instead utilizing its amazing natural speed and putting a different ability to use, Flame Body, becoming an effective punisher of contact moves like U-turn. Talonflame became an NU superstar and even joined the fight against Stealth Rock itself by using Defog to get rid of the hazard for its teammates. And if it lost its boots from an opposing knockoff, fortunately, its Flame Body had a solid chance of punishing the knockoffer, which might remove those boots. Talonflame has become a lower tier Pokemon, which is of course fine, especially since it's seen so much success. It's just a bit jarring to see it in such a position after the metagame shaping dominance that defined it for so long in its debut generation.
And with that, I, TrueGreen7, confident as Mewmore that I'm the real one, am satisfied that I've sufficiently told you this, the tragic tale of Talonflame. Thank you, Joey, so much for having me, guys. Make sure you subscribe to him as he uploads competitive Pokemon every single day and videos like this 3 to 4 times a month. And come check out my channel, where both of us made a video where we created a bunch of new Pokemon stats, like intelligence and dexterity.
Yes, and it was my pleasure. Joey's pleasure. If there's one thing as clear as the overbearing power of Stealth Rock and the pivotal role it played in the downfall of the Smogon bird, it is that I am Joey, and also that you should check out Ron's channel, TrueGreen7.